on behalf of the Architectural Doctoral School and on behalf of the Residential Building Department, I would like to welcome everyone, students, guests, and first of all, I would like to welcome Mr. Hermann Czech, today's lecturer. Hermann Czech just arrived to Budapest a couple of hours ago by train, taking the risk of the Hungarian National Railway delays, but we are very lucky and happy that he arrived. And I would like kindly ask Mr. Dénes Gici, the host of this afternoon's event, to introduce today's lecture for us. Thank you.
Hermann Czech is an architect in Vienna. His heterogeneous work includes urban planning, residential, school, and hotel buildings, as well as interventions of small-scale exhibition design. He studied with Konrad Wachsmann at the Summer Academy Salzburg and with Ernst A. Plischke at the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna. His works include Kleines Café in the middle of Vienna, Wunderbar, and Salzamt, in which he himself often appears in person. His works include the Stadtpark pedestrian bridge, the winter glazing of the State Opera Loggia in Vienna, and some residential houses, including the M House in Schwehat, several residential blocks and exhibition designs like the Sigmund Freud Museum. He is author of numerous critical and theoretical publications and articles. His writings, For a Change and No Need for Panic, are the ones which are often referred to. Czech thinks that architecture is dealing with very many objects. Objectivity means treating each of them in accordance with its necessities. Since these objects are different and on different levels, the true basis and result of Sachlichkeit is heterogeneity, not similarity. Architecture is part of everyday life and vice versa, so it cannot help but include the trivial. He thinks that the loss of comfort is the most annoying side effect that goes with change. When architects tend to reinvent the wheel in every generation, we should take care that it does not first come out square. These are the central aspects in his works: architecture as a background, Umbau, heterogeneity including triviality and comfort. Umbau, which is only insufficiently translated by the terms transformation, remodeling, adaptation, conversion, etc. It is a central notion of his architectural theory. He believes that everything is conversion. In Czech's theory, mannerism also plays a significant role. He also wrote that architecture is not life, architecture is background, everything else is not architecture. Thank you very much for having him here, and please welcome Hermann Czech.
I think it's better when I stand. I don't know, do you hear me in the background? Yes, I already mentioned the greatest number of an auditorium that can hear a speaker is 4,000 without microphone. The example is the auditorium building in Chicago, where there were not only operas, but also political events. This is why Adolf Loos designed a sketch project for a theater for 4,000, because he knew the auditorium building. I start, it's not a very systematic lecture, it's just punctually trying to introduce thoughts and ideas and also projects. I try the first. Yeah, okay. sorry. This is Ballhausplatz. This is a square in Vienna where the Chancellery and the palace of the federal president stand opposite each other. When in 2000 there came up a conservative and right-wing coalition government in Austria, the Austrian commissioner of the Venice Architectural Biennale of the same year, Hans Hollein, invited Austrian and international architects to design an intervention, a statement on tolerance, tentatively on this square. I was also invited, along with Ben van Berkel, Zaha Hadid, Adolf Križanec, Greg Lynn, Tom Main, and Jean Nouvel. My contribution inserted into the square a field with a high fence around it, defining and closing this square with this transparent volume. We produced renderings of this solution in two perspectives. You have the renderings here, and presented them in two identical arrangements, but with two different captions. This is a playground, is the left one, referring to its former use, to the former use of a building in this square as a space for ball games of the imperial court. That's why it's called Ballhausplatz. But also to the necessary tolerance for having a playground in a residential or representative area. And this is a jail to the right, a pair of pictures, a complex statement on tolerance because it refers not only to the problem of the then right-wing government in Austria, but actually to the broader problem of Schengen Europe. This is images and text. In the first place, it is not architecture. It is a statement on architecture. It would not be stronger if it was built. If it was built, the statement would not be understood, at least not without an inscription, because it would actually be either a playground or a jail. As we with all displays, all presented designs, visitors could comment on the display and its relevancy as well as on the political situation. The message, the conclusion is very simple. Architecture does not change the world. Architecture does not eliminate suppression or social miseries. It is a field of its own. This is a part of the end of an article I wrote in 1971. And it's used here as an advertisement for a magazine of the Vienna Architectural Center. And since this magazine was actually called Hintergrund, background, so the quotation was used by on the end of my article. Architecture is not life, architecture is background. Everything else is not architecture. You can maybe remember the quotation by Hans Hollein, everything is architecture. Now this statement says everything is architecture, okay, but all else is not architecture. Sorry. Okay. It doesn't work backwards, unfortunately. Yeah. No, same.
Yeah, it's going back.
Yeah.
Next one.
This is another advertisement for an architectural magazine, quoting three sentences of architects. The first is by Coop Himmelblau, "Architecture must burn." And the second is "Architecture is background," by myself. And Hans Hollein says everything is architecture. Now, the sequence of these three quotations is different. In fact, the first one was Hans Hollein's statement, "Everything is architecture." The second one was mine, "Architecture is background." And the third one is not very informative. It just says architecture must burn. This is a school design of the 1990s. Sorry, what is it? Yeah. It was a whole program of schools in the year 2000. And my school, I myself considered the most conservative one. The idea was that that this school should not represent a progress in teaching that had not really taken place yet. The school design avoids it does not simulate a progress in architecture and in teaching architecture that did not occur yet in pedagogic field. As many sporting places, it combined it. I don't go into the plan. It just combined classrooms with separate rooms where special groups of children could be taken out and taught differently. What I want to show is just what I just mentioned is the sporting place to which no window openings were directed, and of which a journalist wrote, "Only Czech manages to do something like that." A sporting area, a sport field without any windows, just with empty walls. Now, in architecture, of course, one also thinks, how could somebody do something beautiful as has been brought about in history? Can't we think of a way to reach architectural quality? Like, this is a photograph of Isfahan, and this one is a picture of Brussels, of the main square in Brussels. Or this is a lantern by Antonio Gaudí in Barcelona, and it's in some way hiders, and one thinks, how did he come to this effect? My early influence in architecture is results from the seminars of Konrad Wachsmann in the late 50s, in 58 and 59, when I visited these seminars. I don't know how familiar you are with Wachsmann's work and ideas. He was a man arguing for a new approach to prefabrication. But he was not just a technical addict, but with the idea of prefabrication, he at the same time connected the idea of a big responsibility, because each decision, each architectural and technical decision had to be responsible by just by its great number of realization. And by the additive understanding of prefabrication, one also could realize the additive character of architecture altogether. And by this, he also could make aware of the quality and of the structure, for example, of a Gothic hall, or he could explain or make aware why the corner of a Renaissance palace looked like this or that. A student's project by myself is reflecting this influence, and you may recognize that, for example, this structural grid as this one, that this grid modifies the space, or rather the usable space modifies the grid. An awareness of these elements, of course, was acquired in the wake of Konrad Wachsmann. These seminars, as I said, I attended twice. In one of a photograph out of this seminar, you see myself also taking on a straight posture. I'm explaining an informal, nonchalant concept. I am reporting on the idea of identifying the two central notions of modular assembly, the element and the joint. These were two important notions of Wachsmann's teaching. Considering the joint as an element and therefore being able to leave the orthogonal grid structure. In the lower drawing on the blackboard, as opposed to the top drawing, you can see this proposal. Now, I refer to the title, to the caption, to the paragraph titles of an article of 1973, where I, in 1973, so years after Wachsmann's seminars, as a first approach, methods, as just reported, but going into further fields, namely irony, the existent, and pluralism. I will just shortly explain this article and the relating notions. This is an article of four pages, two double pages. I just refer, for example, to the two details on this double page. It's on this top. You see of this restaurant two elements. One is the lighting and one is the tapestry, the decoration, in this case taken by a wallpaper design by Joseph Hoffmann. So there are two details of not only a different shape, but also different levels of architectural context. Or also in the next 2 pages, you have also two details on here on top. There is a detail of a student's project where a Vienna Square, the Graben, is covered by a weather protection, which of course would not be thinkable without knowledge of the work of Frei Otto. But on the other hand, there is a cafe and there is another detail, which is opening a whole other field of approach and of architectural ideas. Now, this means that objectivity, in the German word Sachlichkeit, objectivity, realism, does not, as one thinks, as one might think, lead into a homogeneous, a uniform world of a similar appearance. But since everything, every Sache is different in architecture, and architecture has to do with very many things, with very many Sachen, so that Sachlichkeit in its true approach and its true result is not uniformity, but in the opposite, heterogeneity. I like to refer to a. Now, if this goes on like that, will it take 2.5 hours? No, it's yeah. To refer to a quotation by Adolf Loos, which is from 1898. One wants to have a stone church, good, one goes to a stonemason. One wants a building in rough brickwork, it's built by the mason. One wants a stucco house, the stuccateur gets the commission. One wants a wooden ceiling in the dining hall, that is built by the carpenter. Yes, but here someone is bound to ask who manages the development of the artistic whole. I dismiss the necessity of such a thing. So the heterogeneity is already formulated by Loos, because he understands the different fields that are topic and subject of architecture. Yeah, this is just repeating. Another opposite, another contradiction is the idea of a autonomous, exclusive world of architecture, which has its own regulative and its own notions, and does not care about the triviality of every day. And the other thing, the other approach to architecture that it has to deal with the contextual, which everything that happens in the building and in architecture, and is therefore inclusive. And this opposite thing is a very interesting and sensuous experience and also approach in design of architecture. This is the Loos Bar in Vienna, which in the first place is something exclusive and autonomous. It's a post and beam construction, a coffered ceiling, but beams like that out of stone are not possible. And also the mirror, the extension of the room is created by mirrors, but by a very clear geometric consideration, because in the corner you have the pillars that in their square shape create an extended room all to three sides. These pillars are in fact half pillars, and with their mirrored image they form a square pillar. And in the corners, of course, there are two mirrors, and there is only a quarter pillar that results in the double-sided mirroring a square, another square pillar. In the plan, you can clearly read this. There is a half pillar on the sides. This is the mirrored image of the ceiling. Half pillars along the sides, and quarter pillars where two mirrors meet at a right angle. At the entrance, there is again a half pillar, because at the entrance there is no mirror. Here the illusion would not work, because you have just come in here, and you would not believe that this space is an actual would not irritate you as an appearing virtual room. Yeah, but it's important to understand that in this regular and seemingly exclusive architecture, there is the informality of a place, of a gastronomic place, of a bar. I did a similar, or with this example in mind, I did another gastronomic place in 1917, 1974. The Lowe's Bar is from 1908, if you remember. And here again, there is not a half a pillar that together with a mirrored image makes a square pillar, but there is 1.5 pillars which with the mirrored image make 3. And what there is also the case is that these lintels on top of the pillars are sagging. They are as if they were suspended structures. There is even a decorative profile that represents something like cables. It's also seen in the context of the studying of the work of Frei Otto, who in fact also himself in several of his hundreds sketches he did combines suspended structural elements in the context of conventional structures. Yeah, in fact, this sorry. The room you just saw, the place has been developing in different times in several years. Uh, this is the first place. This was the first place, and this is the extension, the later extension with even later adding of lavatories. The first lavatories were outside in the corridor, but what you see here is a new floor in this first part of the cafe, and this floor is. One more thing I want to explain. It's tombstones. It's cut up tombstones from derelict from a storage of the city council. These are tombstones of the 1870s, which have been derelict and just kept, and have been cut into planes and have been used for this plastering. It's following a proposition by a sculptor, by Karl Prantl, who proposed that with these stones, with planes from these derelict tombstones, the pavement of the pedestrian zone should be realized. But not only the floor, but also not only this new floor, but also the first floor of the. Yeah, this is the drawing of the use of these cut up tombstones, but also the other floor partitions in the other part are from demolition materials. From it's an early example of reuse, which was also easy to argue with the client, because it was much cheaper to use this material. In fact, these octagons that are the base elements of this part of the floor. This is an older part that was already existing in the place, but this part is new. In fact, this was in former times, this was a butcher, and there was in that zone was the counter of the shop, and that's why there is a floor still existing, and there had to be fabricated a new one. These octagons were in fact worthless. They didn't cost anything, because the squares which shaped the total pattern, these squares were missing. And since we already we also had the pillars made out of derelict plans like this. These are demolition. This is demolition material. So from this material, these squares could also be cut out, and this octagonal pattern realized in the floor. In fact, this is not anything new. This happened all times in history. You might know that all the columns on the facades of this cathedral are spolia, are robbed, stolen, taken from other places where they were built in, and it's a problem now, a new problem out of not only of formal and content reasons, but also of ecological reasons, like this building. But it doesn't have necessarily to be so demonstrated that something is that reuse is something that is necessary. For the Kleines Café, the shop front, the original shop front, was kept was still in, remained in use, was also reused. It's the shop front of the 1880s of that butcher. I only designed the writing, the lettering of the new place. There's another aspect which is concerning these seats. In fact, this is looks very traditional. In fact, there were at that time, this was the 1970s, at that time a modern upholstery consisted of two bricks, of two pieces of how do you call it? Schaumgummi was I don't know the English word now for this soft material. Sorry. And there were not very many upholsterers who were still able to do an upholstery like this. In fact, this upholstery is coming out of the this is drawing for this upholstery in Kleines Café, and it's something providing comfort because in fact the pelvis is not stable when you sit. When you sit, you can roll the pelvis back or forward, and it's or in front. And it's this is a drawing of ergonomists in the 1960s, where exactly extension of the upholstery is situated in a short distance from the seating level. And in fact, you have here the necessity of a concave shape, and this is the only reason for this. Sorry. This is the only reason for these buttons. The buttons are not decorations, but they are the only way, the only historical way to create a concave surface in an upholstery. Convex is an upholstery by itself, but if you need a concave development, then you have to draw it back. And since at that time the material had also to be secured against side movement, these pipes had to be used like this. Yeah, this is showing the effect in the for the better feeling of the pelvis. You don't have to have an effort to hold the pelvis in position. I, by the way, did not first see or know that from the ergonomic researches. I saw this way of upholstering in a carriage museum in Vienna. There's a carriage museum next to the Schloss, to the castle Schönbrunn, where there are carriages of several of the last centuries, and there is a group of several carriages of the mid-19th century, around 1850, incognito carriages of the high nobility, and they were did not look like like much in the outside, in the outer appearance, but the inside was upholstered in that way. There is another context in time-wise in this upholstery. the fabric that was used in this for this upholstery in the beginning. Meanwhile, this has been replaced several times and is, of course, leather now, as you saw before. But when in the first fabric that was used here was 20 years older. It was from the 1950s, from a store, from an old store, and it was just completely unmodern, and we cannot repeat today the comic effect that this selection had, to have this definitely unmodern fabric in the upholstery, which of course also did not really coincide with the time association of the upholstery. And so this comic effect had also a time bound effect, and which is something that is interesting for the question of reuse that we approach more and more. Today we can do that, since we have this new upholstery material. We can do it simply like that. We don't have to horizontally fix the position of the soft material, but it is sufficient to have one sewage fixation to create this extending character of the zone near the pelvis. There are several profiles I used in different contexts of this profile, and even that is a very it can even be by hard surfaces. It doesn't even have to be an upholstery like here, but it also works in if it is just stiff material. This looks very uncomfortable when you look at it, but you are surprised when you sit down and have a relaxed experience. This is an example of an idea which is just executed in a prototype. If you span this with a high with a network that is has enough strength. This is the prototype. The idea is that the body never touches a hard surface, but in even all the edges are also this round zone is just shaped by the net, and so it replaces an upholstery. But it even works like this. This is the idea of a very comfortable seat that is not upholstered. Talking of comfort, comfort is not something which is created at once, but it's more a question of improvement. You have something and you make it still more comfortable. This is an example for toned chairs, and this is an example how Adolf Loos changed a type of a toned chair by introducing a different profile. The profiles in these chairs are circular. And Adolf Loos, in his chair for the Café Museum, made these profiles oval, so that the bending force in the respective directions were almost the same, but since there was less material, this chair was even much lighter than these, which were already very light. Today, in today's design, the question that a cafe chair is to be lifted with one hand and may be lifted over somebody else to another place, it's completely forgotten in today's design. I did a similar change of a chair. Yeah, this is Adolf Loos's chair. I did a similar change of another type of chair, of this one, which is for a long time, from the 30s on until the 50s, was the cheapest chair for schools, for inns, for whatever. A Tonex chair, probably a design of the firm of around 1930. And I took this, replaced or modified this chair in two ways. One, in one case, adding an armrest, and in the other one not, but just making it a little more leaning to the back, and thus by this representing a more casual seating posture. Yeah, talking of comfort, this is an interior. It's a part of a remodeling of a hotel and restaurant in a Baroque palace in the Palais Schwarzenberg in Vienna. This was finished in 1984. It is not anymore to be visited. It's not anymore existing. It has been demolished meanwhile, because the use of this palace is still under consideration, and it's not even accessible at the moment. It might be to the border to be able to be misunderstood as a nostalgic style interior. But in this case, for sure, the spectator, at least unconsciously, would not be satisfied perfectly. With a closer look and in use, the place became irritating and challenging, and enclosed an ironic and critical point of view. I would like to show at one exemplary detail that this environment is the result of conceived production, of not repeating, of not trying to repeat a Baroque atmosphere or something like a Baroque restaurant. And what comes up here is something which is not which cannot be short enough explained in this context, but I would like to just to give a hint to this new notion of the last decade, namely atmosphere, the creation of atmosphere in design, which is in my opinion an erroneous notion. I would rather like to explain on this on one example that this also this environment is the result of a conceived production, that it is not something something that wants to repeat an atmosphere. Namely, if we once more look at the if you remember this picture, this is a Baroque chandelier, which in fact had the candles outside the glass elements because of different reasons. It had to be lit, it had to be cut, and all that. And there is another type of a chandelier of the 19th century, that is this one, the left one. And this left one has been changed at the end of the 19th century by placing the lights into the shape of the crystal of the crystal corpse. With the Baroque type, this has not been tried so far, but in this the chandeliers you see here in this example tries to position the light in this the bulbs in that case into the volume of the chandelier. By the way, the chandelier is one way, this Baroque type is one way to reduce the effect of glare, because of course, especially when a light source is positioned lowly in a room, then the danger of glare is obvious. And to multiply the light points by these glass crystal elements reduces the effect of glare. The other way to reduce glare is the well-known spherical globe, which enlarges the surface of light and therefore reduces the glare, because the light per square centimeter is less. Yeah, and this is done by these elements. So they are resulting from considering design process and design consideration, and not by the repeating of motives of that are thought to produce a certain atmosphere. Yeah, this is I won't go too much into this. But there is a difference that is I cannot fully develop now. But there is the idea of a difference in the approach of the design process. By production, I don't mean the actual physical production, but the production of the design process. And it's not conceived. The word conceived is not correct then, from the aspect of consumption, of that somebody's mood or somebody's idea, feeling. Somebody's feeling is led into that the design is producing certain feelings, or tries to produce certain feelings. Although the idea of having an overall impression to try, which is in architecture especially difficult. You have no possibility of really see the effect of something before it is actually executed. In this quotation by Anton von Weber, that in music you can, of course, more easily listen through a piece if you play it yourself, or if a musician can even in the notes in the writing already hear the effect of this of the piece. Yeah, another which is concerning the title I chose, which is a title that I already several times used, less or more. You know that a whole epoch of architecture relied on the effect of less. Less is more. Ludwig Mies van der Rohe said. And this question is something is a meaning. Is it possible to approach meaning to provide meaning in architecture? Is it more by enrichment, or is it more by purification? I do not propose a decision in that case. I just would on the with the example of a certain kind of building, I would like to go into the in the question of appearance of something, and also of with the question less or more. This is a how do you call it, a garbage burning station, incineration, I think you would call it, decorated by Friedrich Hundertwasser in Vienna. Decorated in the 80s or something. This is not a garbage station, but what do you call it? Fabrik, a production station by Coop Himmelblau. And this is something where it's the expression is. I mean, this one is the idea. It's kind of making this ecological problem kind of nice, of human, and this is of showing that everything is rotten and ugly and destroyed. In fact, this was seeming destroyed, and now decades after, it already looks very pretty. And there are other examples of stations like that. One in Frankfurt and Stuttgart, where it says it won't be that bad altogether. And this is a Vienna one, which is quite reasonable. And I did also a proposal. This was not executed for a power and heating station, which had the idea of looking like nothing. It was just a trapezoidal sheet of metal, of steel, and it was directed by methane, and it's interesting that it was not executed And the reason why it was not executed was the production of heat and power would have used a boiler and a turbine, and this would have made most of the waste methane energy. But it included a chimney, this solution. It would include a chimney. And a building of that kind with a chimney was expected to face resistance of civic action groups. And therefore, it was decided to exploit the energy for the production of power only. But anyway, this housing was not executed. So this is an example of a building that would look like nothing. This is a house which are designed in the late 1970s in a neighborhood of houses of the years 1940, so of Nationalsozialistic, National Socialist times. Many of them were remodeled or altered, and even my design looks as if it was altered. If it looks like a remodeling, it looks like an alteration, as if father had added the part with a flat roof to grandfather's house with the gable roof. But the spatial organization of the interior is independent of this exercise of imagery. I have to shortly explain the idea of a round plan, of a plan of volumes, which Adolf Loos considered himself as he considered himself as the inventor. Of course, he did not actually invent it, but he made a system, a design procedure out of it. He said a hall, a water closet doesn't have to be as high as a hall. Architects are always designing in floors, and so all rooms have the same height. He considered the ecology, the economy of space in designing a plan. But the economy of that plan, if you have a plan, you try to get rid of empty surfaces and so on. You have a certain economy in terms of cost, but also in terms of space. And Loos transported this economy into the section. And he said that someday people will learn to play chess in space, in the third dimension. A house like that, I mean, if you have got into that world, you get uncomfortable when you don't use the room under the space under a stair or even under a table or under a seat. You don't use the space for something. And if you have a multi-level design of that case, any change of a stair flight or of a ceiling height is reflecting in all other in the rest of the system. It's like in a musical fugue, and so this house is an example for that, which looks like belonging to this housing area, but has a different approach and yeah. Another thing is some 30 years old project that starts with the aesthetic rules of legislation in this conservative community. But as the architecture does not believe in those rules, it interprets them in a rational way. Users in that case could not only change the plan, but also the facade, in that they could choose the size and position of any window within a larger structural opening. By this way of using these openings, each one got a plan. They had not to design their apartment from scratch, but they got a proposal and they could change this proposal. Some did, and some did very severely, and some did not at all. But what was created, especially in the exterior, was a kind of casual look by in fact rational decisions so individually. If an architect tries to make variations of this informal character, he won't succeed really. But if these decisions are from other people, namely from participating people, then this effect is better to expect. These buildings submit to the aesthetics of the legislation, but at the same time sidestep from it. I would like to call something like that critical kitsch. I go not into detail, as you might have been. There are parking spaces included in the building, and also this. Every apartment has a connection to the open by stairs from the first floor. And on top, the two top apartments have access to a terrace, to the part that they have to divide a terrace for each. This is for a competition, the similar type of houses. Here you have their outer appearance. This was this design is about 1995. But 1975, 20 years earlier, I took part in a group design where an extension in this rural community like this included houses where the idea was that people should be allowed to shape also the exterior of their houses themselves. You might know that Friedrich Hundertwasser was one of them, imitating in his facades something that laymen would possibly do. But in that case, the idea was that really the inhabitants would be able to shape their exterior, but still in the competition. This was a competition. It was necessary to deliver facades, and so we tried to find out cliches that would be in building stores that would be bought and used, and surfaces that would be chosen by participants. And this is an important insight, that participation is not only an organizational or technical theme, but it's also an aesthetic theme. which is not always free of suffering for the architect. Here it's interesting that one can only isolate in the mind cliches like that are approximately 5 years old. The cliches of your very presence are not even easily conceived in your mind. I go into another field. This is a oase in Egypt, in the west of Luxor, I think some 500 before Christ. And this is a temple in this oase, and this temple is under restoration. And you have, in fact, you have not only the time-wise enclosure of this room, which is reasoned from the fact that there is a site, but you see also imitated remodelings. There are columns, and there is a wall, and it looks. The idea is that the wall is something like inserted later into these columns, but in fact you see this is done in one process. So you have the effect of different time levels. And a similar thing is a project I did in 1995, and which is in use until today, namely that the loggia of the Vienna State Opera is closed in winter because there are frescoes in this loggia by Moritz von Schwind, the painter of the original of the time of the original building, and these paintings are have survived the heavy bombing of the opera, by which it was practically destroyed. But the loggia with these frescoes remained, and it's not. It's not in one plane, this glazing, but it forms a recess. It's the upper floor here, and it forms a recess behind the sculptures, but it bulges at the ledge below them in the floor where people walk, to allow for more space. And this creates a complex arrangement of glass surface in the shape of a sagging net. The entire this is the interior. Now here you see the extended space in the lower zone. The entire construction is removed throughout the warm season. It's not a permanent feature of the building. I wouldn't have done it if it would hinder that the opera is seen at any time in its original state. It takes a few days to mount and demount it, and it also does not deny the temporary character as an alien element. A critic has compared it to a tooth regulation, and also a tooth regulation can be nice, especially when you know that it's going someday. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, this is a view at night. Yeah, this is another. This is a poem in a newspaper, in a very much distributed newspaper, saying that Van der Nüll In fact, Van der Nul and Sichertsburg both died. One committed suicide, and the other went insane. And the one of the reasons for their end was that the opera, the level of Ringstrasse was finally higher than was planned. And everybody considered this lower floor as too low. The difference is almost a meter, that this pavement, the street level, was higher than intended. And even the emperor commented this. And so the two architects were one of them committed suicide, and this poem is saying if Van der Nul, one of them, would see the new windows that they have been there, he couldn't do else but commit suicide once more. But then there is a postcard. When it's finally on a postcard, everything is okay. Well, the last thing I show is the Sigmund Freud Museum. Oh, God. There were two more architects' offices. One we did it. There were three offices. There was the Viennese office Artec, Bettina Götz and Richard Manal, and Walter Angonese, who did this design after a competition together. This is an ordinary building of the late 19th century, with, of course, there's all the interventions here are not basically resulting from the house as an architectural work. It's treated with a certain respect as any respectable building. It's not an original building. It even has a kind of round plan in the sense of other floors, because it has a higher ground floor and a lower ground floor in the back, in the back part, in the rear part. But the main thing is that in the mezzanine, Sigmund Freud had in this floor both his apartment and his practice for 40 years, and he had to leave as being Jewish. He had the chance even to leave. 4 sisters of him did not have the chance to leave and were murdered in the Holocaust. But he could even take all his belongings with him. The whole practice and library and everything is in London, and he went to London in 1939, and in 1938 Austria was joined to the German Reich, and 1939 Freud had finally to leave, and he even had a practice in London for 1 more year before he died. Now there is something you can say this happened here. There were these persons that did psychoanalysis develop and emerge, but here this was, but it's nothing to be seen. It's nothing left. Even the couch, for example, the famous couch is, of course, in London and has never been, not even went to exhibitions in Vienna or so. and it has also it's correct. I mean, the lady director of the Freud Museum is of the opinion if the couch came back to Vienna, this would be a falsification of history. But the problem is that from 1971 on, there was already a memorial place, a kind of museum, and this museum, this is the entrance, also in the now remodeled case. The entrance is again the place where you enter and see the staircase. The staircase, in fact, is one of the best remaining ambientes in the house because it has not been changed. But the museum in 1971 used the new used the empty rooms, the walls of the empty rooms, as exhibition surface, as exhibition walls, and this, of course, was a problem, and this is by our intervention changed. This is how the museum, the former practice, looked from 1971 on, and sorry. Yeah, and this is these are two photographs combined from the same. Before Freud, the Freud family left in 1939, a young photographer, Edmund Engelmann, photographed the whole practice, especially the practice, not all the private rooms, so that we know how this apartment, how this practice and working space has looked. And it was even, the photographs were even done with the idea that someday this would be important to know how this looked. These two photographs are here mounted together. This is the practice with the couch. And through the practice, you go into the working space of the practice. Now, this was the state that was not satisfying. But what to do now in this place? There are other examples. There is an example in Brussels, namely the house of René Magritte. This has in the 50s been left by Magritte. His wife died earlier, and the collector has. It was not changed very much anyway, and the collector has restored it as far as necessary. And when you enter, you actually think you are entering the house of René Magritte. It's exactly the same. Even the dog is prepared on the bed, and it's okay. I mean, it's possible. Yeah, but can you? I mean, technically, it would be possible to restore and reconstruct everything, including the library. Also, the colors are not given in these photographs because they are only black and white. But would this be applicable to Freud's ambiente, where you would have a cigar rest even on a table, and his antiques. He had a rich or has had it's still existing in London, a rich collection of antiques. So only some pieces have been replaced and brought back from London on the initiative of his daughter Anna Freud, who was also a psychoanalyst. Now, this is one example how to deal. Another thing is Benjamin Franklin had a house and a printing mill in Philadelphia, and this was torn away for speculative reasons in the early 20th century. And the idea in the 70s was to replace that in some way. And this is a ghost reconstruction called like that by Venturi and Rauch in Philadelphia, where the house and the printing mill are restored in their outer appearance by steel profiles, just on basis of the information of insurance descriptions. Now, what to do with the practice of Freud? Should one replace something like the couch or the outlines, or draw on the floor where it was standing? And these are pictures out of the competition. What could we do with this? The one idea is to make a montage of these two photographs I already showed, and hang it in a position where you could have the idea how it was, like this. Or the other thing is that the walls, or at the walls, there could be the findings, or if you I don't know how you call, if you prepared the walls and took the layers on top of the original thing away, you have at least some information of and also imagination of what the rooms were like. But what was important, the use of the walls, which are the only authentic information, and you have this element. I mean, the biographical or psychoanalytical information, historical information, is also something a Freud museum has to give, but it should not be on the only autonomous element that is left, and even if it's empty, the walls. But all this information, which can be consumed anywhere, also in another exhibition or in a book, they are put into glass cases in the things. The walls only have information that the walls themselves give. This is, and this is, by the way, the first design of the cases, and with the additional problem of books and other things to be exposed. And also, I very often do in exhibitions something. When you read something, you can lean on the glass case, and there's not somebody coming and saying "Don't touch." But even on top, if you see that this area, there are objects, but they are not as high as to cover the site, the view over the room, so they are not higher than 150 centimeters. And there are some, what is shown here is, if you remember, this is the place of the couch, and behind the couch there was a carpet, and the same carpet is in London now, together with the couch. But what here was to be found were the holes where this carpet was nailed onto the wall. And some of the items were even brought back by on the initiative of Anna Freud, for example, this mirror that Freud had in this place here. And when Freud sat here, and a visitor, or the first talk with a client was with a patient, was from here, and so the patient could see himself in the mirror, and also Freud could see himself in the mirror if he wanted. And so these are some of the items are still in the room. And this room that was later on, from the 20s on, the practice of Anna Freud in her psychoanalysis, in her practice, was shown in this part of the ceiling, where two situations of this ceiling are shown on top of each other, but you can't separate it really, because Anna Freud did some intervention here in the sense of Bauhaus or Art Deco. One of her brothers, sons of Freud, Ernst Freud, was an architect. But you can, it's explained here, these two different situations of the original stucco decoration of the building and of the intervention that Anna Freud did. Or this waiting room was tried to restore in 1971 in the first situation of the memorial of the museum, but it sure did not look like that. It was fake. Only this ornament is correct after the photographs. And to show this, now this is done as a neutral. When you turn around, you come in here, but when you turn around, you see explained even these walls explained on this neutralized part of the wall, so that you understand this was the waiting room, but not in this execution. The lighting of the whole exhibition space is done in a way as rooms like that were lit at the time from an outlet in the center, and this outlet only was completed by the possibility of arrange spotlights. While in the ground floor there was a shop in the ground floor anyway. This never had to do with the activity of the Freud family. There even was, in the 1960s, there was a boat shop. You could buy boats there, and there was in the ground floor 30 centimeters of water where the boats were displayed. And this place gave room for a cafe and for the shop and for the ticket counter. And there were also structural changes to provide more space, and a new emergency staircase was introduced, which used the former kitchens of the apartments and also of the apartment of the Freuds, but this kitchen wasn't existing anymore, because it already was in a remodeling of the museum in the 1980s changed into office spaces. What also is shown is an intervention of the Freuds themselves. They introduced in an anteroom a very deep closet. This is a very deep closet. We will see it in the next photographs. And to cover the depth of this closet, a false wall was introduced, a fake wall that even extended into this door opening. Obviously, the Freuds didn't care. It went down to the floor and was opened also in this remodeling of the 1980s. So the idea was, you can't restore any year because first, in the 40 years of the Freuds living in this mezzanine, the rooms have had different uses, which is explained on the new wall informations. had different uses by different members of the family. And after after 1938, 39, the house had a history of its own, because it was, as many apartments in Vienna, was used as a collection. Some apartments were used as collection apartments where Jewish families were collected, 3 or 5 families in one apartment before they were deported. And in this, for example, this is based of an exhibition of the Freud Museum. There is a list of all people that ever were living or being collected in one of these apartments, and their later fate. Only in this is in English. These inscriptions, there is the name, and in the last word of exceptional cases, it says survived. Yeah, this is yeah. I just this here you see the back of this closet where the wall covered this so this there was no paint on this part of the closet, because this fake wall was going with this corner down to the floor, but anyway was removed in 1980. So we again did not, there was nothing reconstructed, but only shown the developments in their remnants. Now I've come to the last for that I have to inform with a little story. In 1927, in a rural community in near Vienna, there was shot into a socialist demonstration from a conservative meeting place, and a man and a child were killed. The accused persons were discharged in a trial by a jury, a lay jury, by the way. And after that, the Vienna Palace of Justice, the Ministry of Justice, was burnt down in a spontaneous riot. In the security measures and prosecutions of that and the following day, the conservative-dominated police, by their rigor and stupidity, killed almost 100 people, not only on the spot, but also in various other parts of Vienna. The Viennese author, critic, and satirist Karl Kraus had a poster placarded all over the city saying, "To the police president of Vienna, Johann Schober, I call on you to resign." Karl Kraus, editor of the Fackel. Fackel was the magazine Kraus wrote mainly himself. What I like to use as an example is this typography. What style of typography is it? For me, it is a perfect example of looking like nothing. Just being to the point. Why didn't Karl Kraus use something like a modern typography? In the first, when I showed this argument in the first case, in 1989, I showed the poster of the event that took place of the symposium. In fact, I had to change it several times. This is from, I showed it in first time 1986. Sorry, it's 1986. I had to change it. This one is of the 90s. and even this cool typography is like talking of something else. No, I don't think that architecture should talk of something else if it does not remain silent. It should talk to the point. Thank you.
Now, if anybody wants to ask a question, it's time for that.
Yeah.
I can start, of course. I start with the question now. So, Hermann, how would you describe the Viennese Bond culture, and how did you contribute to this? What do you think about it?
This is a difficult question because I can't answer that. For that, I would have to show apartments I did. I mean, they are very concrete and I couldn't answer that in general. I'm sorry. By the way, I don't design so much furniture or things like that. Yeah, I designed this this chair or some maybe some more chairs but I don't think I have contributed notable step to a living culture. I mean, what I think is I once recommended in an interview that you shouldn't make yourself a fool with the influence of home magazines and of advertisements, and you not ask yourself, when I buy something new, does it suit to the other furniture? I mean, to which one? I rather have recommended to buy the two first objects completely different, so that this question is finished.
And somewhere I read that somebody described your architecture, comparing it to postmodern architecture, that, for example, the American postmodern is ironic and your architecture is humorous. So what do you think about this comparison, that humor and irony?
I can't. This is a difficult question. No, there are some differences in literature, but I couldn't repeat them now. I think I do not object. I have no objection against irony. I mean, I even think that, for example, in the Palais Schwarzenberg, in these solutions include also the element of irony. Yeah, the difference between humor and irony. I mean, anyway, being witty or humorous. Yeah, a joke is not something which is applicable in architecture, because a joke you can't tell all the time. If you have told it once, it's understood and finished. A second time, it doesn't really work. Yeah. So what is in architecture, this kind of humor or this irony is, it may be in 20 or 50 years, it's not even understood. It's just It's just peculiar. Yeah. So, for example, if you remember that fabric in the cafe, this was people laughed when they saw that. But you can't repeat this effect another 50 years after.
So it's just an attitude, not
Yeah.
like a model.
And more than that, the fabric doesn't hold that long.
I have some more. So you didn't talk about the lighting, the artificial lighting you are dealing with in your restaurants, but I saw one of your lectures. You said, for example, in Salzamt restaurant, you made this very special eye-level lighting to. Does this handling this artificial lighting has to do something with your film studies or your film interest? How you design artificial lighting in a space?
Now, I don't know whether you remember in the article I showed with on these 4 pages of a magazine. I don't know whether you remember. There was this one restaurant which used wallpapers with a pattern by Josef Hoffmann, and there was a lighting on top. The lighting was completely different and was repeating or in some way relating to the office lighting of that time. Of that time, you had a tubular lighting of incandescent, no, not incandescent, of fluorescent lamps, longitudinal lamps, and these were covered by a grid, by a vertical grid of shades that were just square-wise little strips of metal sheet, so that you didn't see the light tubes under a certain angle. Normally in the angle of 60 degrees, or even maybe 45. Yeah. But when you vertically looked into the grid, you saw it. Yeah? This was the office lighting of the time, not of apartments. And in this restaurant we did it, but we did it. There were 2 other architects, Wolfgang Mistelbauer and Reinhard Nohal. I didn't do that restaurant alone, and. It was perfected in the way that there were only those sheets that were necessary to cover the light bulbs. It was not a square grid, and under a steeper angle, under 60 degrees. But this was a light from top, and of course it makes shades under the eyebrows, under the nose. Well, and in the Chinese cafe, for example, there is quite another lighting from the side, from the back, and this represents a very nice portrait light, because this was the classical portrait light of the 20s and 30s in movies and in photography, that you had a sharp light from top to light the hair, and a soft light from the front into the face. And this was exactly provided by this lighting, because you had behind your seat you had these 2 bulbs which mirrored to 4. And from the other side there came the soft light into the face. It was different for the people who did not sit on the wall, but in the middle of. And also inside some there is the light not on top of the table, which was also a possibility of homeliness or so, but they were outside the table and had also the light from first to the hair and only from from a farther distance into the face. So this is considered in a way.
But they were looking nicer in these places. People were looking better. But the other restaurant,
at least nicer than in the first restaurant.
Yes.
But in the first restaurant, there was the idea that you also could use candles. And now, if you have only candles, candles glare a lot. I mean, I still, as a child, know that from air protection basements. Yeah, when from bombing, when you had to go into the basement and you had candles, they were glaring. If somebody sat behind a candle, you wouldn't really see his face. If this is the only lighting. Yeah. But and for that, we had even designed a glare-less candle holder.
yeah, with these layers.
With layers, yeah, where the light from the candle burning down was reflected only to the table.
Maybe one last question. Why are architects obsessed nowadays with the concept of looking like nothing?
I don't know who is besides me.
I mean, it connects with the question with the non-creativity, and everybody is fed up with being creative all the time. Maybe I am.
I used to say there are different aims you can have in architecture. You can have the aim that as many people as possible say they have never seen something like that before. Or the other aim is to give the best that is possible. Only very seldom this can be joined. If you choose the second way to give the best that's possible, this does not sometimes comes out as really looking like nothing, because it's not so different from what other people or other ambientes provide.
It's like effortless.
Yeah, no, the effortness. It can be an effort to bring that, but it doesn't have to look peculiar, or unknown. It can, but yeah.
Lukács wanted to ask this, but I don't know where he is now. What did you mean when you said architecture is underestimated and architecture is overestimated?
Now, yeah, this was a wording of this article, of which the end is architecture is background. This is a rather polemic thing. It said architecture is overestimated because people 50 years ago, when I wrote this in the 1920s, people thought that modern architecture could heal tuberculosis. And since tuberculosis is really vanished, architects think they are now going to other problems. And it's and in the same text it says, in fact, architecture is underestimated because these architects think that the world will be healed when all corners are rounded. I suppose because at that time in the 70s, even the plans had edges like this. Yeah, but maybe there is one or the other question of somebody.
If not, then thank you very much for